Okay, shalom everyone. Here we are in the exciting period of the year approaching Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur. One second, did I say exciting? What's exciting about it? It sounds like it's kind of scary, approaching Yom Hadin, it's real serious days, and Sifrei Chaim, Sifrei Mesim, Psuchim, the Gemara says that the books of life and death are open. What's so exciting here? So that's what I want to explain, that it's true, it's very serious days, but there's a very deep simcha that permeates throughout Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur. And I want to present briefly how and why. So first of all, Rosh Hashana is a Yom Tov. Now, there's a pasuk that tells us how to relate to Rosh Hashana. It's actually a pasuk that kind of escaped public scrutiny because it's not brought down in the Gemara or in the Machzor, but it's a pasuk mefurish. It's in Sefer Ezra, Nehemiah Perek Ches. It's discussing when Ezra came back after 70 years in Galus, in the exile in Bavel, and he came in Yerushalayim on the first day of the 7th month, which is Rosh Hashanah, of course, and he was reading off the Sefer Torah in front of the assembled people, and he was explaining things with clarity and what everything means. And suddenly everyone realized that they were doing a lot of things wrong. There were a lot of basics of Torah that they had forgotten throughout the 70 years in Bavel, and it went to the extent that some of them were even married to non-Jewish wives. And how do you respond to such a thing? So they responded the way we would expect a Jew to respond. They started crying. And then Ezra told them the following: go eat rich foods, drink sweet beverages, share your food with other people. Because today's a holy day. You're not supposed to be sad, because on the contrary, the simcha of the day is going to be your strength. So Ezra was actually explaining how one should relate to Rosh Hashanah. It's interesting to note that the Torah refers to all the Yomim Tovim as a Mikra Kodesh. What does Mikra Kodesh mean? What are you supposed to do with the Mikra Kodesh? So the Ramban in Chumash says we have one place where the Torah tells us what a Mikra Kodesh is. And that's right here when Ezra tells us how to relate to Rosh Hashanah. Etc. Since today is a Yom that's Kadosh, right? Mikra Kodesh, so therefore you should be celebrating. You're not allowed to be sad on this day. It's a day of intense happiness. Why? Because that's what Mikra Kodesh means. Because Kodesh means holy. Holy means connecting to Hashem. And the connection to Hashem can only be through Simcha. Hence, just by virtue of the fact that Rosh Hashanah is a Yom Tov, it must be that it's a day of Simcha. But it goes much deeper. We know that on Rosh Hashanah we eat all kinds of special foods, right? We have the apple dipped in honey and the dates and the etc., what everyone eats, the Gemara talks about. And Mefarshim discuss what is the point of eating these foods. Like, we're not trying to be superstitious, right? What's the point of having these sweet and special foods on Rosh Hashanah? So Mefarshim say, this is in Margolin Beragoyla, Chayadam in Hilchos Rosh Hashanah, and it's actually the Mordechai at the beginning of Yuma brings this. The Mefarshim say that Rosh Hashanah is when a new year comes to the world. Now, just like cement, when you pour cement, so in the beginning, it hasn't molded yet, so you can shape it any way you want. You could write things in wet cement. Only when the cement dries, then it solidifies, and then you can't change it anymore. The same thing goes with the year. The whole year renews itself on Rosh Hashanah. It's a new world. And since it's new, it has not yet solidified. It could still be molded. You could still change it. So by eating these sweet foods and and meaningful foods, we are actually infusing the whole upcoming year with that sweetness and richness of the foods. That's what the Mefarshim explain. It's very interesting unto itself. But now let's apply it to our topic and say, and that if so, all the more so that we should be experiencing a Simcha in Rosh Hashanah, because the way we're experiencing the essence of the day is going to be defining not just the nature of the day itself, but how the whole year is going to be carried out, because now we're infusing into the year its characteristics and quality. So if eating sweet foods on Rosh Hashanah is going to impact to have a sweet year, Kal v'chomer, experiencing a Simcha on Rosh Hashanah, which is what we're supposed to be experiencing anyway, but it's not just the Simcha of Rosh Hashanah, it's a Simcha which through Rosh Hashanah permeates and defines how the whole year is going to be. Let's now look at this from another perspective. Tkiyas shofar, right? We blow a shofar in Rosh Hashanah. What is the feeling that we have during Tkiyas shofar? So shofar penetrates very deep, right? It's maybe the deepest moment of the whole year. Shofar is Malchus. Shofar is proclaiming Hashem as King. And therefore, when we start off the year, so we're defining that this year is starting off with proclaiming Hashem as King, because this is the ultimate of what we want to accomplish during the year. So how do we relate to this proclamation? So it says like the following in the Ketzar Rosh from the Gra, the Vilna Gaon. It says like this: V'Rabbeinu haya sameach ma'od be'ez tkiyas shofar. He was exceedingly happy during Tkiyas shofar. V'amar shekach tzarich liyos b'roiv simcha v'chedva kedugmas hamadinim be'ez shemamlichim melech. We have to be exceedingly happy, just like a nation which is crowning the king. Similarly, that's how we are crowning Hashem and Mamlich Hashem, establishing him as Melech in all the worlds. That's what the Ketzar Rosh brings from the Gra. So now let's understand this. When Rosh Hashanah is not just acknowledging Hashem as King. Rosh Hashanah is a whole different level. The Pachad Yitzchak explained this, that throughout the year when we say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, which is Kabbalas Malchus Shemayim, we are acknowledging, certifying Hashem as King. On Rosh Hashanah, we're not acknowledging Hashem as King, we are making him King. We are crowning him. We are, as it were, putting the crown upon the king's head. We're creating the Malchus. Amongst Hasidim in previous generations, they used to call Rosh Hashanah night in Yiddish, Koronatsia Nacht, coronation night. It's a coronation. It's not telling Hashem, you are king. It's telling Hashem, we are hereby now making you king and establishing that kingship. When a country establishes a king, so this has to be done with a celebration, because otherwise it's a disgrace. You're not going to imagine a country makes a king and that's only the second item in the newspaper headlines. Like, what are you talking about? This is major headlines. This is what it's all about, right? If you're not celebrating this, that means it's lacking in the basic understanding of what it means, of the significance of making Hashem a king. So, yeah, Rosh Hashanah, Tkiyas shofar, needs to be celebrated. And you know what? It has to be like that, because Malchus is always done with Simcha. Malchusa beratzon kiblu aleim. Simcha defines the nature of a relationship between me and everything. When I have people that are my friends, or people that I love, or people that I create a relationship with, what defines that relationship is the feeling of simcha I have in my interaction with them. And to that extent, what defines my relationship with Hashem is the level of simcha that I have in my relationship with Him. And therefore, when I'm establishing and proclaiming Hashem as King, it needs to be something that is done with a simcha, because that means I'm doing it willingly. I want this, and I'm happy with this, and it resonates with me, and I unite with that message. And that's why the very essence of establishing Hashem as King is one that must be done with simcha. And that's what the Vilna Gaon is saying, right? The Vilna Gaon was exceedingly happy, and he said one needs to be exceedingly happy, just like in a kingdom, when we are establishing the kingship. And that's what we're doing on Rosh Hashana. So that's the third aspect of why Rosh Hashana specifically, which is Day of Malchus, needs to be with a very deep and penetrating simcha. And now, just the fourth point, and that is that the whole tshuva process really needs to be with a lot of simcha. Why? It's true that tshuva includes within it charata, which is regret, and sorrow for having done Averis. And the more you grow in your frustration with Averis, the deeper the tshuva can go, and that's all correct. But let's remember what the very essence of tshuva is. Tshuva means to live life in a better way. What is the proper way to be living life? Is that a riddle? It's besimcha, right? The Torah says very specifically that the whole punishment for what? Because you have not served Hashem with simcha. A permeating simcha needs to be part and parcel of everything we have in fulfilling the mitzvahs. That's what it's about. And therefore, tshuva being bringing ourselves to being much closer to what we're supposed to be, and to living life the way it should ultimately be lived. And therefore, tshuva has to be to bring us to a higher level of simcha in our Torah, in our mitzvahs, in our davening, in our interaction with Hashem. That's the very essence of tshuva. So it's true we need to be feeling the sorrow about the Averis, etc., right? But that's relating to Averis. But you want to know what the essence of tshuva is? It's about increasing our simcha in our relationship to Hashem. And that's how the Baal Tanya writes it in Likutei Torah. And therefore, the whole process of tshuva must be, if done properly, one that increases our experience of simcha in Avodas Hashem. So we discussed 4 aspects of simcha in our approach to Rosh Hashanah, right? Number 1 was that it's a Yom Tov, right? Chedvas Hashem ima'uzchem. Number 2 is that the simcha, when infused in Rosh Hashanah, is one that impacts the whole coming year. Number 3 is the gra, that Malchus is one that demands to be besimcha, because the very essence of Malchus is that I'm happy with that Malchus. And number 4 is that tshuva is all about becoming more what I'm supposed to be. And what I'm supposed to be is someone who fulfills the mitzvahs with simcha. And therefore tshuva needs to be something that brings me to a higher level of simcha. Wishing you all a Rosh Hashanah, a tshuva process, and a whole year which will be infused with abundant simcha, with abundant happiness. May we all be zocheh to fulfill the Torah and the mitzvahs with simcha v'tuv levav.